Solidarity, I think of in this moment as being not just a simple definition of, unity or an agreement around where we need to go, but really its solidarity is about collective action. It's a movement, not a theory. And so if we think about examples of where solidarity has had movement, thinking about, for example, the trade labor movement in Poland, which resulted in sort of mass campaigns that overturned political realities. That's, to me, what solidarity means. And as such, solidarity, I think, has to start not with a discussion of the funding per se, but a recognition that the funding is a tool in our box, but the funding will come as a result of the solidarity movement that we seek to build. And we have to say that right now, in the face of all of the reductions in funding, that the threats that we're facing, as you alluded to, Cesar, earlier, it's more than the funding. It's a philosophical attack on many of our values. The idea of an equivalence in the value of lives around the world, the moral imperative towards addressing inequities around the world, the criticality of recognizing and addressing and reconciling with colonial history that has led to imbalances. That's what's under attack, and that's where I think we need to develop this movement of solidarity. And then, whether or not the funding comes along, we will be able to respond in this moment with a collective voice and a collective movement, as I said. But I think there are real barriers. And as you just heard, I think the moment is going to strain some of the required relationships to build that towards that. I've said in the past that, as a member of a high income country academic institution, I have often entered into relationships in this space from a position of privilege and power. And I think, first of all, it's important to recognize that all relationships, all human relationships, do have power differentials, all of them, whether it's spousal relationships, friendships. And I think we have to get to a point where we acknowledge that the goal needs to be able to manage those power imbalances in a more constructive and equitable way. But we're not going, I don't believe, we're going to be able to completely dissolve those power relationships. So we need to manage the power, but also to recognize that the decision to share one's power is itself an exertion of power. So when I decide that I want to engage in more equitable relationships and share authorship or whatever that is, if I'm doing that from a position of power, then my decision of what to share, how to share it, who to share it with, those are all exertions of power. And so now in this moment where things are really disrupted, I think we're seeing, as we heard earlier, a tension here that's being exposed maybe in more detail than has been in the past, because it's not so clear where that power lies. And we have a concept in the US, that was brought up by a sociologist, D'Angelo, back in 2011. It's a concept called white fragility. And it's really when individuals, particularly white individuals, are exposed to stresses around racism, that often leads to a defensiveness that manifests as anger or fear or silence, or trying to exit the situation. And I think in some ways, we're facing a similar sort of fragility. Maybe I don't know what the right term would be, but a sort of a partnership fragility, where we're seeing a response from those in power of defensiveness and of fear and of silence in the face of a common threat. And I think part of this solidarity movement needs to be recognizing and addressing that very real fear on both sides, on the side of those who traditionally have held more power and those who haven't, and coming together in this collective moment to agree on our common vision and mission, but to do it in a way that recognizes how those power relationships can be managed more effectively to move us forward. So lastly, I'll just say, I really do very much believe that the goals that we all share and the philosophical values that I stated earlier are what bring us together. And in so much as we can remain focused on the necessity of working together towards those goals and the necessity of improving lives and livelihoods around the world for everyone, then I believe that the solidarity we can manifest will be coming from a place of common movement. And that's where I think we'll have the opportunity to have impact. And I truly believe that eventually, because I know that the problems we face are not going away, and in many cases will be exacerbated over the next few years or decade, that the funding will manifest itself as a necessity to respond to the realities of the world. And so again, just, in closing, I would just say, let's start the discussion of solidarity as an important and necessary vision for how we move forward the agenda. And I really do believe that the funding will follow. Thank you.